What's up, guys? We are Wednesday 3A, looking at some creative writing stuff. I just posted an assignment, but first, let's look at that story. Yesterday, we read a little bit of a story. I actually posted it the day before, I guess. And I'm not going to read the whole thing aloud. I wonder if you can hear there's a siren outside the window. You always hear that on like YouTube videos. Somebody says, oh, there's a lawnmower. The microphone might pick it up, it might not. So let's do a quick recap. 6 days in Glorious Vienna. That's a trip that these guys signed up for. The narrator is a young Japanese woman, and she's going on her own, so she's combined as a roommate with an old Japanese woman. I guess it would have cost more money to get a single individual room, So she saved up for a while. This is her first trip abroad, and probably her last one for a while because she spent all her money. And then the old woman is probably on her last trip because she's going on one particular mission and wants to do one thing. And after this is over, we assume she's done. That, or at least that chapter is done. So I'm going to read a little bit now, even though if you were in class, I think we read aloud some already. 14 tourists had signed up for 6 days in Glorious Vienna open plan. And since Kotoko and I were the only singles in the group, it was inevitable that we ended up rooming together at the hotel. You always want to put all the good stuff in your first sentence of like who, what, when, where, We'll get more info later, but right away we got single narrator, single old lady, put together on a trip, 14 days, or 14 tourists, 6 days. We got a lot, all in the first sentence. Kotoko turned out to be a plump woman in her 60s who had been widowed some years earlier. On her first night in Vienna, she kneeled politely on the bed and bowed. I'm afraid I snore, she said. I hope it won't bother you. And with that, she climbed under the covers. Yeah, I know we already read this in class last time, but I didn't record it, and a lot of people weren't there, and a lot of people aren't here now. And so I'm making these videos because I imagine it's going to be a common occurrence to have a lot of people at home. And right now, if I do stuff in class and we go over something and share our ideas and put things on the board, all the guys at home will miss that completely. So I want to make videos to include them a little bit more than just text. But either way, I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm going to ask you guys to read it. We're going to see that the old woman wants to meet an old lover, a man that she used to know decades ago. I think they say 45 years ago. And had a whirlwind affair, the love of her life, but he left, never to return. So she's going to track him down because he's dying. And our narrator's going to follow. So the questions are stuff like, not details. Okay, I'm not going to ask, what color hat was she wearing, but I'm going to ask, what's their goal? What problems do they encounter? And how do they change? That's like the key stuff in any story. And then I'm going to add one thing to it, which is foreshadowing. When we read the end and we see what happens, we can look back at the beginning and say, oh, how are they sprinkling in the clues of setting things up? In the story, when you read it the first time, you see the details in one way, but when you see what happens at the end, you can look back and go, oh, now these details, not only were they just flavor, they were just setting the scene, but they were also telling me, oh, now I know why this thing happened, or when something shows up at the end, it doesn't feel like it comes out of nowhere, it doesn't feel random, because we've already been hinted at what was going on. Now, that's just a couple questions, and you'll do that pretty quickly after you read it and think about it. I also have a couple more questions at the end of your assignment for today. It's half about this and then half about your story. We're going to make a story in this first quarter, and we're going to start off with those key things. You got a character who wants something, but they encounter some problems, and then they change. And today I'm asking you to brainstorm a couple parts of that. You don't have to do your whole story today. And if you brainstorm some idea and then you change your mind, and as soon as you walk out of here, you hate that idea and you never want to look at it again, that's fine. Okay, you can do a new one next time, but we're getting our practice in. Okay, you might say, oh, I'm gonna make up a story and it's about I don't know, it's about a kid who has a dream to be an astronaut. This kid, I'm making this up as I go. This kid grows up in the 50s and sees Sputnik, and the Russians are beating us to space, but then a few years later, the Americans start to send people into space, and we get to the moon, and we see back and forth all kinds of action, and this kid really wants to get in on it, does all the right stuff, goes to the good schools, and something goes wrong. What could go wrong for this kid? Well, maybe it's a physical problem. You injure your eye, and they say, no, you have to have two good eyes with perfect eyesight. Or maybe this person learns some fact that scares them. They see some of the early Apollo, was it Apollo or was it Gemini? Some of the early ones where people died, like Gus Grissom, and is scared away, or who knows what, but we got a problem, and then at the end our character changes. Maybe they find a new goal, maybe they find a new motivation to get this one even harder and give up some of the things they had previously valued. But whatever it is, we're going to see our character at the end different than they were at the beginning, or maybe the world is different if our character changes it. The point is, you're going to come up with a few ideas, and they are completely just throwing it out there just for fun. If you come up with an idea today and you want to do a new one next time, that's fine. So don't worry about, sometimes when we do these early exercises, people get a little nervous, like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to write a whole story about this. That's okay. We're just having a little fun. So I'll end this video now so I don't post a super long one. I think in my last few classes, I was posting videos that were like 11, 12 minutes, and they got some clicks. People gave it the time. I think if I posted one that said 30 minutes, nobody would even try because they would just give up. I'll keep this one nice and short, and you'll have time to watch it, read the story if you haven't, check out the questions, and then every once in a while you'll have to go back and look at the beginning after you see the end, or think about your thing twice after you come up with a better idea. Thanks for watching.